The countdown has begun to the invasion of Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared he will not rest till the Hamas is completely demolished. On the ground, Gazans have been asked to evacuate, and the areas of South Lebanon have been cleared out. Gaurav Sawant and Ashutosh Mishra have been reporting from the war zone. They file our top story tonight.
10 days on, the Israel-Hamas war has entered its most decisive phase. Countdown has begun to the invasion of Gaza.
Throughout the last 10 days, the IDF has conducted hundreds of strikes against Hamas operatives, the leadership, its institutions, and its terrorist infrastructure.
Tanks and troops have been mobilized, and parts of southern Israel have also been evacuated.
We just look around, a very picturesque beach on the Mediterranean Sea. Usually you'd have thousands of people here, but not a soul in sight. In fact, the police and the army now deployed here, and the army is asking even the Aaj Tak and India Today team, asking me to leave from here because it's not safe to be here at the Zikkim beach for the simple reason the area remains extremely vulnerable.
Despite an all-out Israeli offensive, Hamas rocket fire continues.
We are running away to safety because the rocket alert has been sounded. Watch around. Be careful. Okay, folks. So, we were here to do an interview, but suddenly there's a rocket alert and we have come to safety.
Remains of Hamas terror still there to see.
India Today is at ground zero in southern Israel's Sderot town, and perhaps the last stretch of the town where you have the open terrain connecting to Gaza before you proceed for Be'eri kibbutz. All these areas are now heavily guarded by the armed forces of Israel, and it is also open for the world media to see the kind of terror unleashed by the terrorists of Hamas group.
The Israeli Defense Force says it has arrested nearly 400 wanted Palestinians, 210 of them affiliated with Hamas.
This is the breaching device. It's modular. You can customize it. You can use only one of these.
This huge cache of arms, including assault weapons, bullets and magazines, seized from the terrorists. Israel has vowed that it won't rest till Hamas is completely decimated. With Gaurav Sawant and Ashutosh Mishra in southern Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
Many people watching at this time would have seen the Israeli series Fauda. It was a sensation not just in Israel but across the world. Many on OTT would have watched it. One of the most powerful characters in that Israeli series is Nurit. Nurit is Rona Shimon. She's joining us now live from Tel Aviv. Welcome Nurit, welcome Rona Shimon. I must tell you that I've watched Fauda so intensely, so closely. It's one of my favorite series, and you are one of our favorite characters. So it's an absolute delight in completely the wrong circumstances to have you with us, and thank you for taking our time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I just have to say I don't see you.
Okay, so we'll try and set that right. Nurit, I want to start by asking you about what the last 10 days have been, because you play the role of Nurit on the screen, where there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of bloodshed, and then to be in the midst of something which looks so surreal, so unexpected, happening all around you.
The last 10 days have been one of the most horrific days I've ever encountered in my life. Hopefully this will never happen again, but this is a very interesting and horrible time in the history of my people. You know, what's surreal about it is Fauda is just a TV show, right? At the end of the day, we all take off our guns, we take off our makeup, and we go home. And what happened on October 7th in Israel has changed people's lives forever. The massacre that was done by Hamas terrorists will never be forgotten and never be forgiven. And this is what we're living in the past 10 days.
You know, there are many Hezbollah, Hamas attacks that get foiled, some that go through in Fauda, but they all happen at a very small scale. In Israel, everyone grows up with the fear of violence, but the manner in which the Hamas was able to pull off this attack, the magnitude of the attack, the precision of the attack, as somebody who's played the role of Nurit on the screen, what did you make of the manner in which these terrorists were able to plan and execute the attack that they did?
I think there's a very big difference between the show I played on and the reality of my country right now. You need to understand that this is not war. What Hamas did to us a week ago is not war. They infiltrated Israel. They infiltrated the homes of people at 6 o'clock in the morning, kidnapped them from their home, raped them, beheaded babies, cut off pregnant women belly, took her fetus from outside of her belly, burned it alive, and then burned her. They tied up children, they tied up their parents, tortured them, raped them in front of their kids. They filmed everything. They filmed the massacre. They were live on Facebook. Not, you know, your people keep comparing it to the show. I don't think we could, no one that I know in their right mind could write such atrocities, because the human mind cannot really comprehend what happened to us. People around the world, you know, it's funny, I hear people say that maybe this must be fake, it's not true, and I understand, because it's really hard for people to understand that someone's so sick in their mind in order to do such evil acts to other human beings.
No, absolutely. In fact, there's been such an outpouring of support, sympathy, and, you know, just empathy for the people of Israel for what they've been through. As you know, India has suffered many terror attacks. Nothing quite as bad as this. Was 26/11 made international headlines on some brutal attacks, but this, as you correctly say, take terrorism and the definition of what a terrorist organization could pull off to a whole different levels, beyond the imagination of any person in terms of the scale and magnitude of the attack, Nurit.
You need to understand, the world needs to understand. This is a whole new thing. This was never done before. We've been fighting Hamas and Hezbollah for 70 years with rockets, with terror attacks. What was done to us on October 7th is something completely different. It is evil in its incarnation. This will never be forgotten. It is written on the history of the internet forever. It will live there forever. You need to understand, the world needs to understand, this is a whole new breed of war crime. This is not a war. This is the people that kidnapped, they're sitting now in Gaza, are 199 people. 36 of them are from 36 different countries. It's not just us. And this is a whole new level of evil than what humanity had known in the modern world.
As a young Israeli, what do you think is the most justified response? Where do you think this should end? We've already seen Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, talking about wanting to wipe Israel off the face of the earth.
Look, it's not my job to say. I'm not the head of state of Israel. I'm a citizen. I'm a citizen who cares deeply about what is going on. The first thing I can tell you that needs to be done is the global community in the world should unite in one mission to bring the hostages back. That is the first thing that needs to happen. After that, we will deal with what will come after that, with the UN, with whoever needs, with America. We will deal with this later. The first thing that needs to happen is the world should care about what was done to us, and the world should care about bringing our people back.
And the world does truly care about what happened in Israel, and there's very strong support. But there are also questions, Rona, about the possibility of overreaction, the fact that electricity was earlier cut off, water was cut off, and people saying Israel should stay within the laws of war and not do anything which isn't humanitarian, which impacts common Gazans who are not from the Hamas. How do you respond to that sense?
Yeah, we've been hearing a lot about, the word proportion has been used a lot the past week. But let me tell you about proportion. Because being proportionate to what they have done to us, meaning that our soldiers would have to go in and do what they did to us. And I can promise you, never in the history of Israel, and it will never happen, that an Israeli soldier would go in to our enemy territory and rape women in the most horrid way. I don't know if you get the videos. In the most horrid way the human imagination can imagine. Behead babies from their crib, kidnap from 6-year-old babies to 85-year-old Holocaust survivors. Our people could never do that. That is not the Jewish morality. That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
You know, we're seeing a lot of young Israelis come back. There were some in India, some in Japan, some in different parts of Africa doing different things. Reservists, many of them wanting to come back. It seems, despite all the internal differences of the past several months, Israel and Jews coming together in an unprecedented fashion against this common enemy.
I have to tell you that it doesn't matter what happens inside our country. You can say things about the government, you can like it, you cannot like it, but the Jewish people, our strength is in our unity. It always has been. We have such strong collateral for each other. We feel like we are a big, big family all over the world. There was no question that when this happened, our family from all over the world would come and join us in our fight to defend Israel.
You know, you put out this story on Instagram, Rona, I saw that. And it's just so gripping because you've basically just captured from 6 a.m. till 11 different people reaching out, notifications coming of rocket attacks, of a Hamas attack. Is that an artistic representation? Is that really what happened with you and your family, and that's your own phone?
I don't think it's relevant what happened to me and my family because we were the lucky ones, you know? But right now, 7 days, a week later, none of us are the lucky ones. We all share the shame. We all share the grief. We're all in this together. And we all try to support, whether it's the army, whether it's the people who survived the massacred party, the butchered kibbutz. And that's our national ma'amatz, how do you say, the effort. That's the national effort that right now all of Israel is concerned about.
You know, and the one part of this attack that just stands out as being the most depraved is where there are young adults partying at a rave. They're in the desert, they're just having a good time, they're not armed, they're not combatants, furthest from. And they get attacked. Very clearly, the Hamas knew that there was this music festival taking place. They've come in with military precision. They've surrounded that dance party from 3 sides at the music festival. And they've gone in and attacked people who were just out having a good time and had nothing to do with this conflict.
Yes, they did. Exactly what you said. That's exactly what they did. I don't know if it was... I know one thing. I know they went with clear intention for massacre. They were bloodthirsty. They wanted to hurt people, to humiliate them, to rape them, to butcher them. They did it with joy, and they were proud of what they were doing. And you can see from their videos that that's what they came for, and that's what they're going to pay for. And Israel will win.
How would you define victory? What does, as a young Israeli, not just as an actor, but as a young Israeli who's so furious at what your nation's been through, Rona, Shimon, what does victory look like? What does the end look like to you in this?
I think there are two victories that I would want to see. I want to see all of the hostages back in their homes as fast as possible. I think this should be a global effort from all our friends all around the world. And I want to see Hamas eliminated. That would be a victory for us.
But, you know, I'm very curious, not as a politician, but just as an Israeli, what do you say to those who'd say that, you know, you can't really eliminate the Hamas? It's an ideology. You can eliminate the current leadership of the Hamas, but till the time there is genuine peace, there's a genuine two-state solution, there will be no end to this problem, that Israel also needs to give enough space for there to be a meaningful formation of Palestine. Without that, this problem will keep rearing its head in some form or shape.
No, you are mistaken. This fight has nothing to do with land. It has nothing. The concept is what the Western world does not understand, is that Hamas by any means want to better the lives of Palestinians. The amount of money that they got from the UN, from America, and from Israel to build infrastructure, you know what they could have done in the 18 years that Israel has not been occupied Gaza. You know what they could have done with the amount of money that they got? It could have been a place of heaven, a place of prosperity. They have done none of that. All they did was create machines to kill everyone who is not like them. Make no mistakes, that is the truth, that is the situation.
No, and in fact, I mean, you said...
You know what? When people scream all around the world, free Palestine, what they mean is free Hamas. And Hamas, on October 7th, proved to the world that Hamas is ISIS. And the way America eliminated ISIS, this is how we're going to eliminate Hamas. That's it.
You know, theaters in Israel have gone dark. The country's film and TV industry has shut down operations. So we're seeing a lot of solidarity, even by theater artists, film artists, for what has happened in Israel and for your country's fight back.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I was saying that I was reading Israeli media which said theaters in Israel have gone dark and the country's film and TV industry has shut down operations after this attack, in a sign of solidarity and support for the IDF, for the nation in its fight back against the Hamas.
Look, I don't believe a lot of people are working. I think this country is traumatized. I think we are all, what we're doing morning to night is, first of all, pray that this is a nightmare that we're going to wake up from, but we understand every single day that this is our new reality. And everybody in Israel, that's all we do morning to night, is to figure out how we can help, what is needed from us, whether it be food or clothes to the people who their houses were burned, to our soldiers, to hug them, to give them strength. And that's what all of Israel is doing right now.
I can understand how emotional and tough a time this is for you. How have you, Rona, been trying to help out your country's cause in this fight back, in whatever little form and shape you and your friends and your family have been contributing? Tell us a bit about that.
I feel like I've been doing what everybody else is doing. I am called from helping get food and supply to the army, to go and talk to the people who survived the atrocities. Hasbara, I'm doing everything, and I will do everything in my power, everything, to help the war effort right now.
You said that Israel has changed forever after the 7th of October. Like, this is like America's 9/11, many people comparing it with that. In your view, What is this new Israel? How is it changed? And how is the new Israel different from the Israel before the 7th of October?
I think the understanding that what we're dealing with is ISIS. I think we are never going to be the same because up until now, I think we had different views on what we were dealing with, and they had just proven that it's a whole other story.
You know, we've been reading reports of many young Israelis joining the IDF. In fact, one of your crew members, Idan Ahmadi, has actually joined the Israel Defense Forces. So, you know, it's not just playing that role on the screen, but also wanting to contribute with the real war effort that's being waged at this moment.
Yes, definitely. Whoever has been called to the reserves is going to the reserves. Everybody. Fathers, sons, everybody.
Finally, and before I conclude, Rona Shimon, your message to those watching in India, watching you across the world, as a young Israeli, what's the thing that you want to highlight the most as people look at Israel's response after this Hamas attack?
I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you for standing with Israel, because you need to understand right now it's a very important period in the history of the world. You're either with the good guys or with the bad guys. And the fact that our longtime friend India is with the good guys in the good side of history, we will never forget this. This is the best thing that you can do for us. Speak for us, speak our truth, speak in our behalf. And that's the one thing I want to ask from you guys. So thank you for broadcasting our stories, and keep doing that. And thank you so much to all my Indian friends.
Rona Shimon, over the past several minutes, you've captured not just your emotions, but you've also shown our viewers what young Israel is thinking at this moment. Your anger, your frustration, very, very palpable, for joining us at what's been a very, very difficult time, arguably the toughest time in your nation, and for sharing your thoughts. Thank you very much, Nurit. Rona Shimon, they're one of the key characters, and also the fact that so many women, you know, that's something which is very interesting, because in India, very recently, I must tell you this, Rona, women weren't in combat roles. It's only changing now, and I think the role that you play, Nurit, and the fact that there's so many Nurits in the IDF who are out with the boys, kicking the bad guys, shooting at them, is really so inspirational for people in India, for young girls to say, okay, I want to grow up and be like Nurit.
That's incredible. I'm so happy that that you guys are getting inspiration from this and reaching your dreams through what we've done. So thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Deeply appreciate your time. Rona Shimon, the actor Nurit from the series Fauda. And I think she makes a very important point. This is way beyond. The writers of Fauda actually came from the IDF. It's based on an Israeli unit called Duaden Unit 217. Lior Raz developed this series because he'd been in this unit and he was able to capture in a very realistic fashion the challenges that the Israeli forces had in dealing with foes like the Hamas, with the Hezbollah. But this, as Nurit just said, way beyond anything that even the writer of fiction could have imagined. For a Palestinian perspective, I'm joined live on the Newstrack now by Jana Jad Al Tamimi, well-known Palestinian journalist and activist. She's been reporting from the age of 7. Several of her videos describing and explaining the situation in Palestine and bringing that reality to the world. You see some of them on your screen right now. She's been reporting from the age of 7. Joining us now from Ramallah, Nabi Saleh. Thank you very much, Jana Tamimi, for joining us on the Newstrack. And I was speaking to a spokesperson in the Israeli Prime Minister's office, and the point that the government of Benjamin Netanyahu is making is very emphatic, and it is this. This is a war started by the Hamas. This is a war that Israel will continue till the time the Hamas has been destroyed completely. It's not a war that Israel wanted, but it's a war that Israel will finish. You've got a lot of friends, acquaintances in the West Bank. What are you picking up from there about the current situation on the ground, Jama?
Of course. First off, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about what's going on here in Palestine. First off, I think one important thing for the international world, including you guys, to recognize is that this is not a war that has started the past week or that was started by Hamas the last weekend. It is an ethnic cleansing genocide, a nakba, a catastrophe that started with the establishment of Israel in 1948. It's been ongoing for 75 years, where Israel has been committing constant war crimes in these past 75 years, committing genocides, ethnic cleansing Palestinians, forcefully kicking people out of their houses and taking over Palestinian lands, taking over Palestinian houses. So it's not something that has started in the past week. It's not a Hamas-started war. It's a military occupation. It's an apartheid system that has been ongoing on Palestinian lands and have been violating Palestinian rights for the past 75 years. And I believe this is something that the international world has failed to recognize, unfortunately, which is really surprising. The situation here in the West Bank, in the occupied West Bank specifically, is in a sense, of course, different than the situation in Gaza, because Gaza has been under Israeli siege. They've been in an open-air prison for the past 17 years, where Palestinians, over 2 million Palestinians, have been held hostages, have been in prison, in an open-air prison, in literally 365 kilometers squared, with more than 50% of the population comprised of Palestinian children in Gaza. They've been growing, they've been literally under the siege controlled by Israel, where all of their fundamental resources are controlled by Israel, where no one is allowed to go in, no one is allowed to go out. The situation in the West Bank is pretty different because we are under a direct military occupation by the Israeli occupation, where we have direct checkpoints, direct land attacks by the Israeli occupation forces. We have over 62% of the West Bank are illegal Israeli settlements that are constantly expanding. So the situation with the ongoing violence by Israel, especially in the past week, has been escalating in the West Bank, especially where Israeli illegal settlers have been carrying attacks on Palestinian civilians, on Palestinian villages, on Palestinian roads, with the protection of the IDF. It's been really terrible for everyone here.
Are you concerned that this battle could expand? It's not just the Hamas, that the Hezbollah could get involved, and then the battle goes from the Gaza Strip to the West Bank as well?
Again, what you're not getting is that this is not a battle. This is not a conflict. It's not two sides of equal powers. We're talking about Israel, a nuclear power, and the Palestinian community, which are people who have been under apartheid for the past 75 years. So if anything, I'm actually concerned about not actually the international world failing to hold Israel accountable for their constant war crimes, for their ongoing genocides, for their ongoing catastrophe that has been going on for the past 75 years, for violating every Palestinian child's rights, and for violating our childhoods and killing Palestinians, murdering Palestinians, arresting Palestinians, annexing lands, taking lands illegally. So that's what I'm concerned about.
How has life been in the West Bank? And from what you're picking up off the Gaza Strip, we're now being told that the Israelis have given instructions for electricity to be restarted. But before that, it seemed as if there's a massive humanitarian crisis that was building up.
Yes, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, as I said, has been ongoing since Israel has literally have taken over the control of the resources, including electricity, water, food, internet, that has been going into Gaza for the past 17 years. And especially in the past couple of days, we've seen Israeli politicians come up and describe Palestinians as animals and having to deal with them as animals, calling the Israeli government to cut off electricity, to cut off water, to cut off internet, to cut off medical aid. And we've seen that actually being applied in the past couple of days. We've actually witnessed multiple hospitals literally fall, where they're not able to provide the civilians who are getting injured and who are getting bombed constantly with any medical aid. We've seen Israeli airstrikes throwing bombs at ambulances, at any medical aids that are trying to be provided to the people in Gaza, where they've even bombed the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt, leaving nowhere for the Palestinians to go. So yes, it's the humanitarian crisis is an extremely bad crisis in Gaza, where Israel are treating people as animals, which they've been doing for the past 75 years.
Well, we'll leave it over there for the time being. This is a very, very difficult time for anybody in Palestine, whether it's in the West Bank or in the Gaza Strip. Jana Jad Al Tamimi for joining us on the Newstrack. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So we had an opportunity to listen to a young Israeli voice, a young Palestinian voice. These are common people who are caught in the midst of this brutal fighting, where the Israeli government, the IDF, now going all out to try and destroy the Hamas. We had an opportunity to listen to a young Israeli voice, a young Palestinian voice. These are common people who are caught in the midst of this brutal fighting, where the Israeli government, the IDF, now going all out to try and destroy the Hamas. Let's take a look now at some of the defining images coming in from the Israel-Hamas war today. Scenes from North Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp show the destruction following Israeli strikes. Gaza has been under intense Israeli bombardment since the rampage by the militant group Hamas. Drone footage from Gaza shows the devastation a week after blistering Israeli airstrikes that have demolished entire neighborhoods. The war that began on the 7th of October has become the deadliest of 5 Gaza wars for both sides. Medics and volunteers in Gaza were rushed to hospital after they were injured in an Israeli airstrike. At least 5 medics were killed in the attack, according to a statement from the local hospital. Residents in Khan Yunis neighborhoods of Gaza said that the various areas that were bombarded during the night have been badly impacted, adding that this was the heaviest pounding yet in 9 days of conflict. Palestinians desperate to leave Gaza gathered at the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. This as the diplomatic efforts continue to get aid into the enclave that's been under intense Israeli bombing. This is where I wrap up the Newstrack tonight. I look forward to seeing you at 8 p.m. tomorrow evening, where we will look at the challenges of urban warfare. The Israeli Defense Forces getting set to move into Gaza. If they do, what are the kind of challenges that await them? How long could that urban war really go on for? How would be the impact? What would be the impact on the Israeli Defense Forces and their counter plans? All of that and more coming up on the Newstrack at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Goodbye, good night.